I got the termination email at 4:47 p.m. on a Thursday. Subject line read, "Immediate personnel change. My name is Vincent Hayes, 38 years old, and I just closed the biggest deal in TechVault Solutions history." The message was 3 sentences long. Bradford Sterling, our CEO, thanked me for my service. He'd decided to restructure the sales division. My position was eliminated effective immediately. I read it twice sitting at my desk in our Boston office tower. Outside my window, people were heading home for the weekend, completely unaware that my 6-year career had just ended in a PDF attachment. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I just sat there feeling strangely calm, like I was watching this happen to someone else. That morning, I'd presented a signed contract with Quantum Dynamics worth $18.7 million over 3 years. The biggest client we'd ever landed. And now, 8 hours later, I was jobless. I didn't panic, didn't call Bradford screaming, didn't march into his corner office demanding answers. That's not who I am. My dad was a union electrician in South Boston who taught me to think before I speak, to be sure before I act. So I closed my laptop, packed my photos of my daughter Zoe into a cardboard box, and walked out. Security escorted me, which was standard protocol. Phil, the guard who'd seen me come in every morning for 6 years, looked uncomfortable. "Sorry about this, Vince," he muttered in the elevator. "Just doing my job." I nodded. No hard feelings. In the parking garage, I sat in my Honda Accord for 20 minutes, engine off, just thinking. Something didn't add up. You don't fire your top salesperson hours after they land a massive client. Not unless there's something else going on. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, checking the balance on the separate account I'd opened last year. $43,000 saved up. Emergency fund. Guess this qualified as an emergency. TechVault Solutions sold cybersecurity software to mid-sized companies. I'd started there in 2019 as a junior account executive, worked my way up to senior sales director by 2023. Bradford Sterling founded the company in 2015, building it from a 3-person startup in Cambridge to 85 employees across 2 offices. He was 52 years old, Harvard Business School graduate, the kind of guy who wore expensive suits and quoted Marcus Aurelius in staff meetings. I'd always respected him, thought he valued hard work and results. Apparently, I was wrong. My wife Natalie was at her parents' house in Worcester that week helping her mom recover from surgery. We'd been married 9 years. She worked as a physical therapist at Brigham and Women's Hospital, earning about $72,000 annually. Combined with my $110,000 salary plus commissions, we lived comfortably in a 2-bedroom apartment in Somerville. Not rich, but stable. I called her that evening after Zoe went to bed. "Bradford fired me," I said. Silence on the other end. Then, "What? Why?" I explained everything. The Quantum Dynamics deal, the email, the immediate termination. Natalie was furious. "That's insane, Vince. You just brought them millions. Can you sue?" I'd been thinking the same thing. Maybe. I need to review my employment contract first. That night, I pulled out every document I'd ever signed with TechVault. Employment agreement, non-compete clause, commission structure, confidentiality agreements. Read them all carefully, highlighting relevant sections. My commission on the Quantum Dynamics deal was supposed to be $187,000, paid out over the contract duration. The employment agreement stated commissions were only paid to active employees. If you left or were terminated, you forfeited unpaid commissions. I'd signed it without really reading that clause 6 years ago. My mistake. But there was something interesting in the non-compete. It prevented me from working for direct competitors for 12 months. However, it specifically defined direct competitors as companies selling identical cybersecurity products to the same market segments. The language was narrow, probably intentionally. Friday morning, I called Theodore Moss, an employment attorney I'd met at a networking event last year. His office was in downtown Boston, 15th floor of a glass building near Government Center. "Vincent," he said when I walked in, "what brings you here?" I explained the situation. He listened carefully, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Let me guess. Bradford's going to take credit for your deal, collect the revenue, and you get nothing. Exactly what I'd been thinking. Can I fight this? Theodore studied my employment contract for 10 minutes. The commission forfeiture is legal. You signed it, but that doesn't mean you're helpless. He pointed to a clause I'd missed. See this? It says commissions are forfeited unless termination is deemed retaliatory or in bad faith. Firing you immediately after closing a major deal could qualify. I felt something shift inside me. Not hope exactly, more like clarity. What do I need to prove that? Theodore explained the legal strategy. We'd need evidence that Bradford fired me specifically to avoid paying my commission or to steal credit for my work. Phone records, emails, witness statements. Do you have any documentation showing your role in securing quantum dynamics? He asked. I smiled for the first time since Thursday. I have everything. I'd learned early in my sales career to document thoroughly. Every client meeting, every email exchange, every phone call got logged in my personal CRM system. For quantum dynamics, I had 6 months of detailed records. Initial outreach in November 2024, first meeting in December, proposal submission in January 2025, contract negotiations through March and April. All documented with dates, times, and notes. Bradford had barely been involved. He'd attended one meeting in February, mostly to shake hands and make small talk. I'd done 95% of the work. Theodore reviewed my documentation that afternoon. This is excellent, Vincent. Very thorough. His retainer was $7,500. I paid it with my emergency fund. That weekend, I did something I'd been avoiding. I checked TechVault's social media. Bradford had posted on LinkedIn Friday afternoon. Thrilled to announce TechVault Solutions has secured a major partnership with Quantum Dynamics, a leader in aerospace technology. This $18.7 million contract represents our commitment to excellence and innovation. Grateful to my team for their dedication. My name wasn't mentioned, not once. The comments were full of congratulations directed at Bradford. Amazing leadership. You've built something special. Visionary CEO. I screenshot everything, sent it to Theodore. He replied within an hour. Perfect. This helps establish the bad faith angle. I also noticed something else. TechVault's investor relations page had been updated. They'd posted Q1 2025 earnings projections that included revenue from the Quantum Dynamics contract. Bradford was already counting my deal as his company's success, probably to attract new investors or increase valuation. I took screenshots of that too. Documentation. Always document everything. Monday morning, I got a call from Kevin Walsh, my former colleague at TechVault. We'd started the same week back in 2019, became friends over the years. Vince, what the hell happened? He asked, voice low like he was hiding in a conference room. I told him about the firing. Kevin went quiet. Then, dude, you need to know something. Bradford called a sales meeting Friday morning. Announced he'd personally closed the Quantum Dynamics deal and restructured the team to focus on enterprise clients. Promoted himself to Chief Revenue Officer in addition to CEO. Gave himself a $150,000 bonus. My jaw clenched. He told everyone he closed the deal? Showed a PowerPoint presentation with his name on every slide. Never mentioned you once. I thanked Kevin and hung up. Called Theodore immediately. Bradford's claiming he closed the deal himself. I said, can your friend testify to that? Theodore asked. Probably. Let me ask. Kevin agreed to provide a written statement. So did Olivia Kent, another colleague who'd witnessed Bradford's presentation. By Tuesday, I had statements from 3 former colleagues confirming Bradford's false claims. Theodore filed a formal complaint with the Massachusetts Attorney General's office alleging wage theft and retaliatory termination. He also sent a demand letter to Bradford requesting immediate payment of my owed commission plus damages. The letter was detailed, citing specific statutes and case precedents. Bradford's response came Wednesday via TechVault's corporate attorney, a woman named Simone Archer from a downtown firm. The letter was condescending. Mr. Sterling disputes all allegations. Mr. Hayes's termination was a legitimate business decision unrelated to any specific transaction. The employment agreement clearly states commission forfeiture upon termination. No further compensation is owed. Theodore had expected this. Now we escalate, he said. We filed a lawsuit in Suffolk County Superior Court. Breach of contract, wage theft, tortious interference with prospective economic advantage. We weren't asking for just the commission. We wanted punitive damages. The filing made local business news. Former TechVault employee sues CEO over $18 million deal. Read the Boston Business Journal headline. Bradford called me Thursday night. First time I'd heard his voice since the firing email. Vincent, this lawsuit is unnecessary. Let's talk like adults. His tone was smooth, practiced, like he was negotiating a contract. I'm listening, I said, keeping my voice neutral. You did good work on quantum dynamics. No one's disputing that. But you understand business realities. The company took risks, invested resources. That deal happened because of TechVault's reputation, not just your effort. I let him talk. I'm prepared to offer a settlement. $35,000. Generous severance. Good reference letter, we both move on. I did the math in my head. My owed commission was $187,000. He was offering less than 20%. I'll discuss it with my attorney, I said and hung up. Theodore laughed when I told him. He's panicking. That offer proves he knows he's wrong. We rejected it the next day. Bradford didn't respond well. His attorney filed a countersuit alleging I'd violated my confidentiality agreement by sharing company information with Theodore. The countersuit was weak and Theodore knew it. Attorney-client privilege protects everything you shared with me. This is just intimidation. But it worked in one way. It drained my emergency fund. Legal fees were piling up. $12,000 so far. Natalie was supportive but worried. What if we lose, Vince? What if this costs more than you'd win? Valid concerns. We had Zoe's college fund to think about, our own savings. I couldn't let this destroy us financially. That's when I made a decision. Instead of just fighting Bradford in court, I'd beat him in the market. My non-compete prevented me from working for direct competitors. But the language was specific to cybersecurity products. It said nothing about consulting or strategy services. I spent that weekend researching, found a gap in the market. Mid-sized companies needed help evaluating and implementing cybersecurity solutions, but most consultants were either too expensive or too generic. I could offer specialized guidance based on my 6 years of industry experience. By Monday, I'd registered a new LLC, Hayes Security Consulting. Cost $500 to file with the state. I reached out to former clients, people I'd worked with over the years who trusted my judgment. Not to sell them TechVault competitors, just to offer independent consulting services. Help them assess their security needs, recommend solutions, negotiate better contracts with vendors. Within 2 weeks, I had 3 clients paying $5,000 each per month. $15,000 monthly revenue. Not my old salary, but enough to cover bills while the lawsuit progressed. Bradford found out in May. Sent a cease and desist letter claiming I'd violated my non-compete. Theodore responded with a detailed legal analysis showing how consulting services didn't fall under the restrictive covenant. Bradford's attorney backed down. They knew they'd lose that fight. But something else happened that I didn't expect. Quantum Dynamics reached out to me. The contact was Ryan Brennan, their VP of Technology, the guy I'd worked with for 6 months to close the deal. Vincent, we heard about what happened with Bradford. That's messed up. Your name should have been on that contract. I appreciated the sentiment but wasn't sure where this was going. Ryan continued. Here's the thing. We signed with TechVault because of you. Your expertise, your understanding of our needs. Bradford showed up once, talked about himself for 30 minutes, then left. We haven't heard from him since. What are you saying? I asked. We've got a 90-day evaluation period in the contract. If we're not satisfied with the service level, we can terminate without penalty. Right now, we're not satisfied. Bradford assigned some junior account manager to handle our implementation. Kids in over his head. I felt my pulse quicken. You're thinking about canceling the contract? Considering it. Unless there's a better option. Ryan paused. What if you came on as an independent consultant to oversee our TechVault implementation? We'd pay you directly, separate from their contract. Make sure this actually works. This was brilliant. I wouldn't be competing with TechVault, just consulting on their existing contract. My non-compete couldn't touch this. I'd need that in writing, I said. Scope of work clearly defined. Within a week, I had a consulting agreement with Quantum Dynamics. $12,000 monthly retainer for 6 months. Bradford lost his mind when he found out. Called me directly, screaming, "You're sabotaging my company. This is tortious interference." "I'm helping your client implement your product," I replied calmly. "How is that sabotage? You're stealing my deal." "Your deal? Funny. I thought you closed it yourself." He hung up. His attorney sent another threatening letter. Theodore responded with facts. I wasn't recruiting Quantum Dynamics away from TechVault. I wasn't selling competing products. I was providing independent consulting services that actually helped ensure TechVault's implementation succeeded. Completely legal. But here's what Bradford didn't know. Ryan Brennan had introduced me to 3 other aerospace companies evaluating cybersecurity solutions, all interested in hiring me as a consultant to help them navigate vendor selection. I wasn't selling products, just offering expert guidance. By June, Hayes Security Consulting had 8 clients. Monthly revenue hit $42,000, more than my old TechVault salary. I hired my first employee, a former colleague named Trevor Cross, who'd also left TechVault after seeing how Bradford operated. Together, we built something Bradford could never take away. The lawsuit went to discovery in July. Both sides had to hand over documents. Bradford's emails were revealing. We found messages to his CFO from April discussing how firing me would eliminate commission liability and improve Q2 margins. Exactly the evidence Theodore needed to prove bad faith termination. We also found emails where Bradford explicitly told his marketing team to credit him with closing the Quantum Dynamics deal in all public communications. "This is my signature achievement," he'd written. "Position me as the deal maker." Theodore was ecstatic. "This is smoking gun evidence, Vincent." He documented his own fraud. Bradford's attorney tried to argue the emails were taken out of context. But context didn't help. The timeline was clear. I closed the deal Thursday morning. Bradford sent the eliminate commission liability email Thursday afternoon. Fired me 2 hours later. We filed an amended complaint adding fraud and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The local business media picked up the story again. This time, the coverage was less favorable to Bradford. In August, something unexpected happened. 2 of TechVault's largest clients reached out to me. Both had worked with me before, trusted my judgment. Both were frustrated with service quality since I'd left. "Bradford doesn't understand our needs like you did," one told me. "Is there any way you could help us evaluate alternatives?" I was careful here. My non-compete prevented me from directly recruiting TechVault clients to competitors. But I could provide independent consulting advice if they approached me. And they had approached me. I helped both companies assess their options. Didn't push any specific vendor. Just gave honest analysis of their needs and how different solutions compared. Both ended up switching to TechVault competitors. Not because I recommended it, but because the analysis clearly showed better fits. Bradford accused me of poaching his clients, but the facts showed otherwise. They'd contacted me. I provided neutral consulting. They'd made independent decisions. When his attorney threatened legal action, Theodore invited them to proceed. "Let's put your client's business practices under oath," he wrote. They declined. By September, TechVault had lost 4 major clients. Word was spreading that Bradford had stolen credit for deals he hadn't closed. The lawsuit was scheduled for trial in November 2025. Both sides knew it would be expensive and risky. Bradford's attorney approached Theodore about settlement in early October. "Mr. Sterling is prepared to offer $95,000 to resolve all claims. Still only half what I was owed in commissions, not counting legal fees or damages. Theodore advised we could likely win more at trial, but trials were unpredictable. It's your call, Vincent. I thought about it for 2 days, talked with Natalie, ran the numbers. My consulting business was thriving. I didn't need Bradford's money anymore, but this wasn't about money. It was about principle. Reject it, I told Theodore. If he wants to settle, he pays the full commission plus my legal fees. Theodore communicated our counter-demand. $187,000 in owed commissions, $28,000 in legal fees, and a public statement acknowledging my role in the quantum dynamics deal. Bradford's response came fast. Absolutely not. Fine. We'd see him in court. Then something happened that changed everything. A reporter from the Boston Business Journal called me requesting comment on a story. The reporter, Nicole Ford, had been investigating TechVault for weeks. She'd heard about our lawsuit and started digging deeper. Mr. Hayes, I found evidence that you're not the only employee Bradford has treated this way. There are 3 other former salespeople with similar stories. Closed big deals, got fired right after, lost their commissions. I'd suspected I wasn't alone but hadn't known specifics. Are they willing to talk? 2 of them are. The 3rd signed an NDA as part of a settlement. But the pattern is clear. Bradford uses a strategy of hiring talented salespeople, letting them close major deals, then firing them before commissions come due. Saves him millions in payouts. Nicole asked if I'd go on record for her story. I checked with Theodore first. Your lawsuit is public record anyway, he said. Talking to the press won't hurt our case. Might help. I agreed to an interview. Gave Nicole access to my documentation, my timeline of events, the discriminatory emails we'd found in Discovery. She interviewed Kevin, Olivia, and Trevor too. Former TechVault employees confirmed the pattern. The story ran October 23, 2025. Front page of the business section. The headline read, TechVault CEO accused of systematic commission theft. Nicole's reporting was thorough and damning. She detailed my case, the 2 other confirmed cases, and interviewed employment law experts who called Bradford's practices unconscionable and potentially criminal wage theft. The story quoted the emails where Bradford discussed eliminating commission liability. It showed how he'd personally taken credit for deals he hadn't closed. It revealed that TechVault's impressive growth was partly built on stolen commissions from fired employees. The response was immediate. By that afternoon, TechVault's investors were calling emergency board meetings. 2 major venture capital firms that had backed the company released statements expressing concern. One demanded an independent investigation. Bradford tried damage control, released a statement saying the allegations were distortions by a disgruntled former employee. But the evidence was public now. Screenshots of his emails, testimony from multiple witnesses, documentation of the pattern. By the next morning, TechVault's stock price had dropped 18%. Private company shares were trading on secondary markets, and investors were dumping them. 3 days after the article, Bradford's attorney called Theodore with a new settlement offer. Mr. Sterling is prepared to pay $250,000 to resolve all claims and avoid further publicity. More than my commission plus legal fees. Theodore asked if they'd include the public acknowledgement. We can include a joint statement that Mr. Hayes played a significant role in securing the quantum dynamics contract. Not exactly what I wanted, but closer. I told Theodore I'd think about it. That night, Natalie and I discussed it over dinner. Zoe was at a friend's house so we could talk freely. $250,000 would set us up nicely, Natalie said. Pay off the car, build our savings, maybe finally take that vacation to Ireland we've talked about. All true. But something bothered me. If I settle now, Bradford just moves on. Keeps doing this to other people. The pattern continues. Natalie reached across the table, took my hand. Vince, you've already won. You built a successful business. You exposed his fraud. You don't owe the world more than that. She was right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that settling would let Bradford escape real accountability. Then Kevin called with news. Vince, you won't believe this. TechVault's board just forced Bradford out. They fired him this afternoon. Immediate termination. I sat down, stunned. What? Investors demanded it after that article. The board voted unanimously to remove him as CEO. They're installing an interim replacement and launching an investigation into his commission practices. Bradford had been fired, just like he'd fired me. The irony was beautiful. There's more, Kevin continued. The board is reaching out to former employees who lost commissions. They're offering settlements, trying to clean up Bradford's mess and restore the company's reputation. This changed everything. I called Theodore immediately. By the next morning, we had confirmation. TechVault's new interim CEO, a woman named Veronica Shaw brought in from one of the investor firms, wanted to meet with me directly. No attorneys, just a conversation. I agreed, curious what she'd say. We met at a coffee shop in Cambridge, neutral territory. Veronica was mid-50s, sharp eyes, all business. Mr. Hayes, I've reviewed your case thoroughly. What Bradford did was wrong. The board wants to make this right. I listened. We're prepared to pay your full commission of $187,000, your legal fees, and an additional $75,000 in damages. Total package of $290,000. In exchange, you sign a release of all claims against the company. Better than Bradford's offer, but I had one question. What about the other employees he did this to? Veronica didn't hesitate. We're contacting all of them. Same approach. Full commissions plus damages. We're setting aside $1.2 million to clean up Bradford's fraud. I felt something shift. This wasn't about beating Bradford anymore. The board had already done that. This was about whether I'd accept accountability and move forward. I want one more thing, I said. A public statement from TechVault acknowledging my role in the quantum dynamics deal. Not buried in legal documents. On your website and LinkedIn. Veronica nodded. Done. We signed the settlement agreement on November 12, 2025. TechVault paid $290,000 into my account by wire transfer that afternoon. Theodore took his cut, about $85,000 for legal fees and contingency. I netted $205,000. More than I'd expected. The public statement went up that same day. TechVault Solutions acknowledges that Vincent Hayes, former senior sales director, was instrumental in securing our partnership with Quantum Dynamics. We regret the circumstances of Mr. Hayes' departure and are grateful for his significant contributions to our company's growth. Bradford's name was nowhere on it. I screenshot the statement and sent it to my dad. He called 5 minutes later. Proud of you, son. You handled this the right way. That meant more than the money. But the money was nice too. Natalie and I paid off our car loan, built our emergency fund back up to $60,000, and started planning that Ireland trip. Hayes Security Consulting kept growing. By December, we had 12 clients and monthly revenue exceeding $55,000. I hired 2 more consultants. I heard through former colleagues that Bradford tried to start another company in January 2026. Some kind of sales training consultancy. It failed within 3 months. No one wanted to work with him after the scandal. His reputation in Boston's tech community was destroyed. Last I heard, he'd moved to Austin, Texas, trying to rebuild somewhere people didn't know his story. I didn't feel satisfaction hearing that. Just a kind of quiet justice. He'd made his choices and consequences had followed. In February, I got an unexpected call from Quantum Dynamics. Ryan Brennan again. Vincent, our contract with TechVault ends in April. We're exploring options for our next cybersecurity partner. Would Hayes Security Consulting consider expanding into product sales? This was huge. A potential pivot from consulting to actually selling solutions. Higher margins, bigger growth potential. I'd need to build out infrastructure, hire salespeople, negotiate vendor partnerships, I said, thinking out loud. Ryan laughed. Sounds like the kind of challenge you'd crush. Think about it. I did think about it. Discussed it with Natalie, with Trevor, with my business attorney. By March 2026, I'd made my decision. Hayes Security Consulting was evolving into Hayes Security Solutions. We'd still offer consulting, but we'd also represent select cybersecurity vendors as an authorized reseller, not competing directly with TechVault-specific products, staying clear of non-compete restrictions, but serving the broader market. I hired 4 salespeople, all former colleagues who'd left TechVault after Bradford's fraud came to light, people who valued integrity and knew how to build real client relationships. We landed Quantum Dynamics as our first major client in May. 3-year contract worth $22 million. This time, my name was on the paperwork. This time, I'd collect every dollar of commission I'd earned. The company Bradford fired me from was struggling. TechVault lost 6 more major clients in Q1 2026. Revenue dropped 37%. Veronica Shaw was doing her best to turn things around, but Bradford's damage ran deep. Meanwhile, Hayes Security Solutions was thriving. By summer, we had 23 employees and annual revenue projecting $8 million. I'd gone from fired employee to CEO of a competitor in less than 2 years. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just building something better than what they took from you. If you enjoyed this story, like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.